If you thought the insanity of humanoid robots in 2024 was already at a boiling point, well, things just boiled over. Jim Fan, Jensen Huang, and Nvidia have just introduced Project Groot, and it changes everything. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Since the beginning of 2024, I've been saying that 2024 was the year of embodied AI, and wow, I have been proven right. We're not even out of the first quarter of 2024, and already things have just gotten completely crazy. So today I want to look at this post from Dr. Jim Fan from Nvidia, and he is in charge of a new project called Gear Lab, and they already, I think he just formed it a couple of weeks ago. I remember a hiring call coming out and him saying like, hey, are people interested in working at this lab? And already they have this amazing project, Project Groot, the point of which is to be a robot manufacturer agnostic system in which you can do humanoid robot training and inference at scale. So let's take a look at this. So Jim says, today is the beginning of our moonshot to solve embodied AGI in the physical world, so embodied AI. I'm so excited to announce Project Groot, which by the way is a great name. I am Groot.
I am Groot.
Our new initiative to create a general purpose foundation model for humanoid robot learning. If you don't know what a foundation model is, that would be like the GPT. That's the basis of things like ChatGPT and stuff. So it is a model that is a basic model that usually takes a great deal of training and a lot of expense to train. And then on top of that, what you do to make a chatbot, for example, is you do reinforcement learning with human feedback. But the basic model underneath it all is the foundation model. And what we're looking at here is one for embodied AI, in other words, robots of a heterogeneous variety, right? So you've got robots like Digit down here, and you can see that with his knees being bent backwards, and most of the other robots have knees that bend forward. You've got different manipulators like hands versus claws and things like that, different heights, different weights, all sorts of different things. But the whole goal is to create some sort of a foundation model where you can go from voice or demonstration or other things to robots performing that action. And that's not only an amazing, but a really necessary undertaking. And it's really cool that Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, has allowed Jim and his team to work on this and to obviously get a lot of resources because they've already created an amazing amount of stuff here in a very short amount of time. And while I talk about this, I'm going to go ahead and play this video. I'm turning off the sound. Unfortunately, it's got music under the whole thing, which means it's copyright strike land. So sorry about that, but I'll go through explaining what's going on here eventually. But anyway, continuing on, the Groot model will enable a robot to understand multimodal instructions such as language, which means talking to it, video, in other words, it looks at a video, and demonstration, in other words, I can show it how to take a glass and drink out of it or pour it or something like that. So different ways of instructing the robot and perform a variety of useful tasks. It's not clear how big that list is, but it should probably get very, very big. We are collaborating with many leading humanoid companies around the world, and we can see 9 of them on stage with Jensen at the end of the presentation, so that Groot may transfer across embodiments and help the ecosystem thrive. So that is a really good goal. Like I said, it's very important that we have multiple different robots that can operate using the same sort of operating system to make it much easier to scale out the abilities of these robots. Anyway, Groot is born on Nvidia's deep technology stack, and of course that's where Nvidia comes in. We simulate in Isaac Lab, which is a new app on Omniverse Isaac Sim for humanoid learning, that's a mouthful. Train on Osmo, new compute orchestration system to scale up models, and deploy to Jetson Thor, new edge GPU chip designed to power Groot. And that last part is very important. Jetson Thor is obviously going to be the brains of these bots, and so that again, Nvidia, they're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing this because what they're essentially going for is having pretty much all the humanoid bots in the world running on their hardware, running on their operating systems, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a win-win because a lot of these smaller companies need something to work with in order to be able to access the technology and to grow as quickly as they need to. Probably companies like Figure, which I note is absent, and certainly Tesla, which Optimus is absent. But those companies are probably not interested because they've been developing a lot of their own hardware, but many of these other players are going to be interested, and potentially eventually even the companies that are not with Nvidia right now will have to come around and standardize on some of this stuff, or at least compete on that with their own bots. But anyway, really, really cool. As Jim says here, announced in Jensen's keynote, Project Groot is a cornerstone for the Foundation Agent roadmap of the newly founded Gear Lab. So Foundation Agent is really cool. They're working on building an artificial general intelligent agent, which I would call an artificially intelligent agent, or an AIA, not an AGI. So very, very big difference. Very huge moonshot. Jim calls it a moonshot type of project. It's a very, very large project. It's, it's huge resources, high risk, high reward kind of thing. Also a little bit on the dangerous side, because we've got artificially intelligent agents in bodies. So that's actually a really scary kind of thing. But in my mind, I have come around to the opinion that the closer these robots are to us, in other words, if they're embodied and they inhabit physical space and they're approximately human size and shape, that means they're much more likely to align themselves with humans in the long run. So that would be a very good thing. Anyway, so the Foundation Agent roadmap of the newly founded Gear Lab, and it's newly founded. That's the crazy part, is they've got all this stuff and it's a newly founded lab. At Gear, we are building generally capable agents that learn to act skillfully in many worlds, virtual and real. And that's very important. I'll touch on that in a minute. See if you can spot Gear in the video. Join us on the journey to land on the moon. So this is their moonshot project. If you're an amazing engineer, you should definitely look at joining. I have actually reached out to Jim and talked to him about the fact that I believe that not only Nvidia, but everybody who's working on this, OpenAI, XAI, Meta, Google, Apple, potentially, I don't know what they're working on at this point. But anyway, all of these players that are working in this space should really be looking at hiring humanists, people in the arts, people in the humanities, people in literature and stuff, philosophers. They really need to hire on a team of those people to work with the engineers. They've got huge resources. These are companies that are raising billions to, Sam Altman wants trillions of dollars. So, we're looking at companies that are going to have massive amounts of resources, and they really, really, really need to moderate what's going on with their engineers, with people who have a different outlook on life and perhaps a more holistic one. I don't know. I'm not going to value judge which one is better. I'm just saying that multiple perspectives at this point are a really good thing, because all of these companies are pushing really, really fast to get to artificial general intelligence, or AIA, artificially intelligent agents. Okay, so let's go through this video quickly. First of all, the most important thing at the beginning is we see a number of different robots. We see Digit here, we see Apollo. There are other ones. Sorry, I don't have them all off the top of my head. This is a relatively quick reaction here. It's 10:15 at night. So anyway, we're working through this thing. But anyway, you see a bunch of different robots here. The whole point is this is heterogeneous. It's not based on one robot or one company. It's based on lots of them. That's Aptronic's Apollo. And here, of course, you can see that Digit is a very, very different looking robot than these other robots. It's got grippers, but most importantly, it's got backward facing knees. So the cool part is we're looking at a platform that's going to be able to deal with these differences between robots. And that is very, very cool and very important. Then we get to the instruction pipeline here. You can see it's multimodal. We have language input, which means I would talk to the robot. We have video input, which means, of course, you could show it a video. We also have demonstration, which means you can either use virtual reality, you can put your hands in haptic gloves and you can use glasses, or potentially you could just have it look at you and you could say, pay attention to me, I'm going to show you how to do this. Not exactly sure how the demo stuff works, but anyway, all of that goes into their main pipeline. And then, of course, you can see that pipeline is we've got Project Groot here. It goes to actions, goes to the humanoid robot, goes to observations, feedback loop, and then it goes back to Groot. So the main sort of brains of the whole thing are NVIDIA's Project Groot. I assume that the actions are actually, transferred to the actual individual robots. So Project Groot is as a level of abstraction above that. It's something like move your arm out to grab this. I'm sure in a much more specific way than that. But basically, it's on that kind of abstract level, and then turning that into actual motions of the actuators is up to each bot vendor. And then, of course, we've got training going on in the virtual world, and you can see down here that we've gone from a 500 iterations about here. So they're wandering around, they're not doing that great. They're wandering and they're bumping into things, falling over. Then we get to 1,000 iterations. You can still see that things are kind of falling over, right? So this is a way to train millions of these robots across a kind of a landscape, and you can kind of design anything you want, but you can do this in much, much faster than real time, of course, without the danger and expense of breaking your robots as they fall over. We're now up to 3,000 iterations. In other words, it's trained for 3,000 iterations of this process. Things are getting substantially better here. And that's really, really cool. And then the awesome part about this is that this means what the voiceover person said was the bots will be able to do zero-shot transfer between the virtual world and the real world. What that means is if they learn to pick up something like this bottle in the virtual world and they pick it up and pick it up and pick it up and drop it and all that stuff and eventually figure out how to do that, they will be able to transfer that to the real world without having to do any live demos. They'll be able to do it solely based on virtual learning. And that is a very, very impressive tool if they're able to carry that out and do zero-shot learning. So here you can see the Nvidia Isaac Sim is the simulator that it's able to learn on. And then it uses Osmo, which I gather is their data center or something like that. That's where they do all the training on it. They do heterogeneous computing. They produce these neural networks and everything, and then they deploy them into the humanoid bots. So by the time it actually gets to the real bot, there's been a lot of training that has gone on previous to this, which allows them to be much more efficient in terms of actual training time with the bots themselves, the real ones, as opposed to the virtual ones. And then here we get a left-right comparison. On the left is Isaac Lab Omniverse Simulation Digital Twin. So that's not real. And then you've got the real one. So here, go back to this again just to show this. So here you've got on the left virtual, on the right real. Looks pretty darn similar. The physics, the more important part than the reality, you know, the look part of it is whether the physics simulation is good, but apparently it's kind of a zero-shot simulation. So the physics is so good in that virtual world that it just transfers straight over to the real world without anything. And here you can see somebody demonstrating. He's using like VR glasses and some sort of a pointer or something like that. And so he's showing the robot how to pick something up and demonstrating it. And we just saw this from Apptronic today, that they were able to transfer this from teleoperated, from having a controller control it, to autonomous. And they had just put this video out today, just a couple of hours before I saw this announcement too. And so you can see, you know, it's not perfect. The robot's still a little bit shaky and stuff like that, but it basically has learned how to do this autonomously. Then we've got a really, really nice Fourier intelligence robot here that's learned how to drum from this drummer. Unclear whether it just watched it. I think he just watched the demonstration, potentially from video, maybe from other sources. It's unclear, but then you actually get the robot looking at the demonstration and learning how to play the drums. So very, I mean, you know, it's not like it's playing the world's most amazing drum beat right there, but that's still pretty amazing. And then of course we've got demonstrations as well from just it figuring out how the kinematics work. So it's able to figure out from 2D video what a 3D skeleton looks like. Then it transfers that to Isaac Lab in the virtual world, and then it transfers that to the real world in a real robot. And so it's able to transfer that learning across. That is pretty darn amazing stuff. And then we have the really cool part of attaching this to a large language model, which I guess is called Tokyo. I guess that's what it's called, but it has a voice to text. So it's able to go, I guess Tokyo is the voice to text. It takes the human voice, turns it into text, throws it into a large language model, throws it into Project Groot, does the action, and you get an audio output where the robot can actually talk back to you. And then I'm going to chance the copyright strike thing just to show you this part where he's actually speaking to the robot here.
Give me a high five. Sure thing. Let's high five.
Right, so that's exactly what we're talking about. And by the way, we just saw this with Figure as well, and everybody's thought that it was CGI or some sort of actor doing the voice or something like that. I don't know why people got so hung up on this, but you can clearly see that not just Figure and OpenAI have been able to do this, but also Nvidia as well. And I expect potentially other companies as well, Tesla, hint, hint. But anyway, I would expect that this voice to text thing is going to become very, very standardized very fast. It looks like they've already integrated it extremely well in a very short amount of time. So that is going to become the way that we talk to our humanoid bots. I expect it will also become the way that we talk to our vehicles in time, because they are also robots as well. And if you didn't know, Grok is actually, xAI's Grok is now open source. The weights are free. I tried to download it, but it's like 350 gigabytes, and I actually didn't even have enough space on my hard drives to download it. So I'm gonna have to buy a new hard drive to download the weights from Grok. But in the meantime, people are working on it already, and I think people are working on quantizing the weights to get it into a smaller form factor so that we can use it. But anyway, all of this stuff is happening very, very rapidly, and it's super, super exciting. I mean, it's just amazing to see this embodied AI come to life so quickly. A year ago, who would have thought any of this could have happened? 2 years ago, we were looking at Optimus being a person in a white suit that came out and danced on stage. And now we're talking about bots actually behaving that way in real life and getting a foundation model from a company like Nvidia that has just been, you know, swinging for the fences. They've just been hitting home run after home run. So this is amazing stuff. They have also invested in Figure as well. So it's not just these bots that are there. And so, in general, the embodied AI space is highly competitive, but also incredibly exciting right now. There are going to be a lot of winners out of this, and I just can't wait to, get one of these things in the home really, really soon. Again, I expect most of them will probably be in factories and stuff doing work at the beginning, but it's not going to be that long at this kind of a rate before we're going to get home bots as well. And that will be really, really fun as a consumer to get a hold of one of those and be able to play with it. All right, so that's what I got for you today. It's pretty amazing stuff. I hope you agree. Anyway, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. And of course, I can't wait to see what the next evolution of this is. And I especially can't wait to see Tesla's response, because they've been kind of upstaged by Figure and now Nvidia and Aptronic and Digit and others. So I think it's time for Optimus to make an appearance again relatively soon. Anyway, I'm sure that soon enough, Tesla's AI team will come out and show us a demo. But in the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.